to that international theme where we're leaving Europe for just a few minutes and we're heading over to Nigeria. And this is a story that I heard from a Nigerian teller years and years ago, so it's an old one for me, but it's a good one, so I hope that you enjoy it. And it is a folk tale, and it's a story of a king, a rich and powerful king. And this king ruled over a vast kingdom. And his country was going rather well, actually. All his people were very prosperous. It was a time of peace. But while all this was bubbling along rather nicely, the king had a growing concern. And this concern was his daughter, Amma. Amma had come of age. She'd always been a lovely child, but now she was grown. And the king, he wanted to see her settled. Yep, his growing concern was he knew that this lovely daughter of his, well, she was beautiful, intelligent, a little bit too spirited at times for his liking, very stubborn. But people had heard of this beauty and this intelligence, and suitors had come from all over the world to ask for her hand in marriage. But each and every one received the same answer. No. 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 She didn't want any of them. And he decided, no, this can't go on. We have to do something. And he looked at his daughter and he thought, yes, no wonder all these suitors are coming. She was his only child and he took great care of her. He had dressed her in the finest clothes, the best fabrics, materials with gold and silver thread woven in. On her feet, she wore sandals made of the softest calf leather. Her skin glistened like polished ebony, and her hair was always made up in the most elaborate designs, and woven inside were the golden beads and the lovely cowrie shells. And whenever she walked, she sparkled like a ray of sunshine. And he thought, yes, oh, my lovely daughter. But he decided to sit her down. Now listen here, Amma. This is your dad talking. What's going on? You have all these people coming and you're not interested in any of them. And she said, well, you know, most of them come from very good families. A few of them are rather handsome. They're all very nice and some are interesting too, but not one of them is intelligent enough. No. And Father, you see, if I am going to rule after you, I don't want some nice thing on my arm. No. I want somebody intelligent who's going to help me make important decisions. Whew. The king was a very relieved man. He got to the root of the problem, and now he just needed to find a solution. So off he went, and a few days later he came bounding in, full of energy. Amma, I have found the solution. You know how I love stories. Well, how about this? What if we were to have a competition? We'd open this out to everybody in the world. And this competition would be that whoever can tell a story that lasts for 7 days and 7 nights. Well, somebody who can do that must be rather intelligent. And as long as they tick a few other boxes, well, they could win your hand in marriage. What do you think of that? And she thought about it, and I suppose it makes sense. So yes, she agreed. So word was sent out, and of course immediately the suitors started to come along. And oh, the princes came first, and oh my goodness, the stories they could tell. They told stories of their lavish palaces, their sumptuous furnishings, oh, the exotic pets that they had roaming around their homes. They brought beautiful gifts for Amma and for her family. Oh yes, but all those stories only lasted for a few hours. And then the merchants came along, and oh, the excitement in their voices. They told stories of their adventures on the high seas, battling pirates, hiya, hiya. They told stories of drudging through the deserts on long voyages. Oh, and Amma and her father were perched on the edges of their seats. Oh, excitement, excitement, but only for a couple of hours. No, not one story lasted longer than a day. And then, of course, everybody else came, and the stories were funny. The stories were moving, heartbreaking, wonderful, but far too short. And soon, the suitors started to dwindle in number. And Amma and her father, they began to wonder what on earth they could possibly do. Oh, and just as they were about to give up, there was news that there was one suitor who had still to tell a story. Oh, bring him in, said the king. So they brought this young man in, and as he stood in front of the court, look who's come, look who's come. They all giggled and sniggered because there in front of them was Bola. Now Bola was a young man and everybody knew him because his family owned that scruffy bit of land right as you entered the kingdom. Yes, Bola? What? He thinks he's worthy of Ama's hand? But the king said, wait. If he has a story to tell, let him tell his story. Thank you, your majesties, said Bola. And he began his story. There was once a village, and the people who lived in this village were farmers, and they worked hard. Every day they got up early, they went out into their fields, they worked until the sun went down, and then they went home. And this paid off because the village prospered. And you see, your majesties, the village was enjoying its time when one day, as the villagers were out in their fields, they heard a strange noise. And they looked up into the sky and they saw a great black cloud coming towards them. And as they looked up and it was getting closer and bigger, they realized it was a swarm of locusts. And the villagers ran into their homes. And your majesties, you know what happens when the locusts descend. Oh, they destroyed everything. And when the villagers came out, there was nothing left. Oh, they were devastated. And it took years and years of hard work to get back to where they were. But the villagers had decided that in order for them to protect themselves, if that were to happen again, a granary was to be built right in the middle of the village. And every single household would bring a portion of their harvest and place it in the granary, in case hard times came by. And this they did. And several years passed and the village was beginning to get back on its feet when suddenly, as they were out in their fields one day, they heard that horrible familiar sound. And they looked up and there was the big black cloud of locusts swarming towards them, and they ran into their homes and the locusts descended. They took everything. There was not even one grain of maize left in their fields, not even a bit of a maize stalk. Nothing. And the locusts, they were feeling pretty good. And they were about to leave when one locust spotted something that nobody else had seen. A hole. Yep. Right there in the side of the granary. And he flew down. And your majesty, he squeezed himself through that hole. And he took a nice little grain of maize and squeezed himself back out of that hole. But your majesty, another locust had spotted that first one. And he too flew right down to that hole. He squeezed himself through. He took a little grain of maize, and he squeezed himself back out, and off he went. And your majesties, that second locust had a mother, a big mother locust, and that mother locust flew right down, your majesties, and squeezed through that hole. She picked up a nice big juicy grain of maize, your majesty, and but your majesty, that little mother locust, well, she had a sister, and that sister flew down, your majesties, and squeezed through the hole, and she too took a little grain of maize and flew back out, and yes, Bola, said the king. Yes, I see where this is going, but tell us, what happened next? Your majesty, I've only just started to tell the story. I don't want you to miss any of the interesting details. You see, your majesty, there were millions of locusts, and in the granary there were millions of grains of maize. And so you know what happened next? There was a grandfather locust who lived. And oh yes, he bobbled down and he squeezed himself through, and he took a grain of maize and he squeezed out and flew away, and the story continued for 7 days and 7 nights, and at the end of it, Ama and her father both agreed that Bola, yes, was a very intelligent man. And Ama in particular thought he ticked a few other boxes too. So they lived happily ever after.